Okay, so I want to start today by intentionally messing with your mental geography a little bit.
Oh, all right. I'm always ready for a pop quiz. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw out three names. Absolute heavy hitters who basically architected the foundations of Western theology. You ready?
Yep, go for it.
All right, we've got Tertullian, Augustine of Hippo, and Simon of Cyrene. When you hear those names and you picture them writing their treatises or walking the road to the cross, where are they standing? Like, what does the backdrop actually look like in your mind?
I think for the vast majority of people listening right now, the default mental image is very Greco-Roman. You're picturing the cobbled streets of Rome or maybe a European monastery with stained glass.
Right. High European culture.
Exactly, you think Europe.
We totally think Europe. We think Western civilization.
Yeah.
But here is where the history actually just smacks us in the face. If you were to check their metaphorical passports, where are they actually from?
North Africa. They were amazing, indigenous to the region. I mean, Augustine, who is arguably the most influential theologian outside of the apostles.
The man who defined original sin.
Exactly. He wasn't a European, he was a North African. This region, what you now call Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, it was once the absolute heartbeat of Christian theology.
It was the engine room of the early faith.
It really was.
And that is just wild to think about. The theology we rely on today, the commentaries on our shows, the roots are deep in North African soil. But, and this is kind of the pivot point for our deep dive today, that isn't the picture we see in 2026.
No, it's a stark, almost violent contrast. Over the centuries, North Africa shifted from being this massive center of theology and missionaries to a region that is now a receiver of prayer. It's a region where believers are a tiny and often actively persecuted minority. And that shift from the engine room of the faith to a place where the faith is basically fighting for oxygen, that's exactly what we are unpacking in this deep dive.
Right. So we're looking at the preview for Week 9 of the Missions Connect app. That covers February 23rd through March 1st, 2026. And the timing here is super critical because we are right in the thick of the 30 days of prayer for the Muslim world.
That's right. Ramadan runs from February 18th to March 20th this year, so this deep dive falls squarely in that window. And the theme for this week is just incredibly powerful. It's this concept of being co-laborers.
Co-laborers. Yeah, I want to pause on that because it can sound a bit like church jargon. Break that down for us. What does that actually imply for the person listening right now?
It changes your posture entirely. It means you aren't just a passive observer reading sad stories about people far away.
Right.
When you pray, you are working alongside the internal believers in these closed countries. You are supplying air cover for their ground operation. It's functional. It's not just sentimental.
Okay, so let's map out this operation then. We are going on a journey to three very distinct stops today. First, we're going to look at the Amazi people, the indigenous free people of North Africa. Then we're zooming in on Tunisia, which you mentioned is the site of ancient Carthage.
Yep.
And finally, we are going to head east, way east, to the rugged mountains of Afghanistan to meet a group called the AMAC.
It's a sweeping journey, all the way from the Mediterranean coast to the Hindu Kush Mountains. But the thread connecting them is this idea of resilience in the face of erasure.
And just a quick reminder to everyone listening, this deep dive is your prep tool. We really want to get your heart ready for the daily prayer guides in the Missions Connect app. The whole goal here is simple: blessing the nations through prayer, knowledge, and obedience. So let's dive into our first stop, the Amazi.
The Amazi. It's a name that really demands some unpacking because it's often so misused or just misunderstood in the West.
Well, let's start with the etymology. Amazi literally translates to free people.
Which is significant because they have been in North Africa since at least 3000 BC. Yeah, they are the original inhabitants.
Yeah.
Long before the Romans or the Vandals or the Arabs arrived, they have this rich history of resisting empires. But there is a really tragic irony in that name, free people.
How so?
Because structurally and spiritually for the last 1,300 years, they haven't been free. Following the Arab conquest of the 7th century, the region was Arabized and Islamized. And what is so poignant about this is that most modern Amazi people, and we're talking about over 30 million people, spread across Morocco, Algeria, Libya, and the diaspora in Europe.
Most of them don't know their own history.
Exactly. It's been completely scrubbed. They don't know about Augustine or Tertullian. They don't know that their ancestors were the pillars of the early church.
That's heartbreaking.
And they don't know the gospel in their own language, which is called Tamazight. It's a heritage that has been erased from their collective memory to fit a different narrative.
Yeah.
Imagine losing the knowledge that your own great-grandparents built the house you're living in.
That is tragic, to have that in your bloodline but just not know it. Now, the source material does highlight a specific region where things are changing, the Kabyle region in Algeria. Why is this specific spot so important?
So the Kabyle are a subgroup of the Amazi living in the mountains east of Algiers. They have always been fiercely independent, historically rebellious against whoever happens to be in charge, whether it was the French colonizers back in the day or the modern Algerian government.
Right.
And since the 1990s, this region has actually become the epicenter of a modern movement to Christ. It's really where the spark is catching fire.
So the free people are exercising that freedom to choose a different path.
Precisely. It's a quiet but very powerful turning. But as we often see in these geopolitical contexts, spiritual breakthrough tracks political opposition. And the data here is, honestly, it's heavy.
Yeah, looking at the reports from World Watch Research for 2024 and 2025, it really seems like the Algerian government has decided enough is enough. This isn't just casual harassment. It looks like a highly calculated strategy.
It is a strategy. It's a systematic crackdown. The government views this growth of Christianity, particularly in the Kabyle region, as a direct threat to national unity and identity.
Because they want a cohesive Arab Islamic identity.
Exactly. And the Ahmadiyya Christians disrupt that narrative.
And what does that disruption look like in practice? Like, how does the government actually respond on the ground?
Well, the statistic that stands out most is regarding the EPA, the Evangelical Protestant Church of Algeria. This is the main legal umbrella for these believers. In the last few years, the government has forced all 47 of its affiliated churches to halt activities.
Wait, all 47? We're talking about a 100% closure rate?
Effectively, yes. They use zoning laws, safety codes, basically bureaucratic warfare to seal the doors. Just imagine that. Every single visible sanctuary closed. The places where they baptized their children, where they sang in Tamazight padlock.
Wow.
And it's not just physical buildings either.
Yeah.
They are going after the digital space, too. One of the sources mentions a Facebook Christian group with over 50,000 followers that was just abruptly shut down.
That is massive. I mean, in a context where you can't meet in a physical building, that digital group is your lifeline. Losing that is like losing your entire community hub overnight.
It leads to profound isolation. The research estimates that more than 75% of Algerian Christians have lost their fellowship connections entirely because of these closures.
75%.
Yeah, they are scattered. They are back to being secret believers in a land their own ancestors evangelized.
So if the buildings are closed and the Facebook groups are gone, is the church defeated? Is the movement just over?
Far from it. And this is where the co-labor concept gets really interesting. Despite this massive crackdown, the movement is resilient. And strangely enough, Ramadan, the very season we are in right now, plays a crucial role here.
That feels completely counterintuitive. We tend to think of Ramadan as a time when the Muslim world is the most closed off to the gospel, like the most entrenched in Islamic identity. But you're saying it's actually the opposite.
Historically, yes. Think about the spiritual atmosphere. You have millions of people fasting, praying, seeking God, asking for revelation. That creates an intense spiritual hunger, literally and metaphorically. And it often correlates with a huge increase in supernatural encounters.
Right.
We see reports of dreams and visions of Jesus increasing significantly during this month.
I always find that fascinating. In the West, we are sometimes a bit skeptical of dreams and visions, but in the Middle East and North Africa, it's a primary mode of communication, isn't it?
It is culturally normative.
Yeah.
God speaks through dreams in their worldview. So when they dream of a man in white offering them bread or water, they take it very seriously. It's like, well, the government is busy closing the wooden doors of the churches. God is just coming in through the window or through their subconscious.
That's amazing because it bypasses the censorship entirely. You literally can't arrest a dream.
Precisely. And that is our specific prayer point for the Amaziah this week. We are praying for those supernatural breakthroughs to bypass the government restrictions. We're standing on Psalm 145, verse 18.
The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth.
Exactly. We are praying that as they call out in truth during Ramadan, he answers.
I love that so much. Government censorship can't stop a dream. Okay, let's slide the map just a little bit to the east now. We're going to Tunisia.
Tunisia? Ancient Carthage?
Right. If you're a history buff, you definitely know Carthage. The great rival to Rome. Hannibal crossing the Alps with the elephants. But for church history, this is hallowed ground for a totally different reason.
It is. This is where Perpetua and Felicitas were martyred in 203 A.D. They were these young mothers who stood in the arena and gave their lives for Jesus rather than renounce their faith. This is ancient Christian soil. It's arguably the true seedbed of African Christianity.
But looking at the stats today, it's just another stark contrast. Open Doors World Watch List ranks Tunisia at number 34. What is the demographic reality actually like on the ground right now?
The percentage of evangelical Christians is minuscule. We are talking about 0.1% of the 12 million people. It's barely a rounding error.
0.1%. That is barely a sliver. And politically, things have gotten really complicated there recently, haven't they? Tunisia was kind of the poster child for the Arab Spring for a while, the one real success story of democracy.
It was for a while. But since 2022, under President Kais Saied, there has been a rapid consolidation of power. You have a new constitution and a major shift toward one-man rule. And the rule of thumb in this region is pretty simple. Whenever political freedom contracts, religious freedom usually contracts right along with it.
So what does that contraction look like for a believer? Is it the same state-level closure of institutions like we saw in Algeria?
It's a bit different. In Algeria, it's very institutional. In Tunisia, it's more social and surveillance-based. Church gatherings are heavily monitored by the police. They know exactly who is going in and out. But the social pressure is even worse.
How so?
If you convert from Islam, you face intense rejection from your family. You could easily lose your job. Women risk losing custody of their children in court battles.
Man, it's such a high price to pay. But again, the sources point out this counterintuitive dynamic regarding Ramadan in Tunisia specifically. It seems like the culture shifts in a way that actually opens a door.
Yes, this is totally fascinating. In Tunisia, Ramadan actually creates a strategic opening for conversation. Think about the culture. During this month, spiritual conversations just become the norm. You're sitting in a cafe after the sun goes down, breaking the fast, and people are naturally talking about God, piety, eternity.
So topics that might be totally taboo or just weird the rest of the year are suddenly on the table.
Exactly. If you bring up God in October, it might seem aggressive or out of place.
Yeah.
You bring up God during Ramadan at an iftar dinner, you're really just fitting in. Topics like salvation, the nature of God, eternal life, they are discussed completely openly.
Wow.
And this provides an incredibly unique window for that tiny 0.1% of Tunisian believers to speak into those conversations without immediately raising shields.
That is so strategic. It's like the culture gives them a permission slip to talk about faith for 30 straight days.
It is. And our prayer is based on Isaiah 65, verse 1. I revealed myself to those who did not ask for me. We are praying that in those cafe conversations, amidst the tea and the sweets, Jesus reveals himself. We are praying for the believers to have the courage to gently steer that normal conversation toward the truth.
It's almost like spiritual Aikido, using the momentum of the culture to introduce the gospel. Okay, let's pack our bags for the final leg of this journey. We're leaving the Mediterranean coast, leaving North Africa, and heading east to the mountains of northwestern Afghanistan. We are meeting the AMAC people.
The AMAC. Now, if you thought the Amazigh were isolated, the AMAC are on a whole other level entirely.
Paint the picture for us. Who are they?
They are a collection of semi-nomadic tribes, Sunni Muslims. There are about 1.5 million people living in incredibly rugged mountainous terrain. They live in yurts and mud brick houses and are often very disconnected from the central government in Kabul.
And what is their status in terms of the gospel?
They are classified as engaged, yet unreached. Less than 2% are evangelical. But really for the AMAC, the number is likely much, much lower. We're talking about a handful of believers, if that.
And the context there, I mean, we all know what happened in August 2021. The Taliban swept back in.
The Taliban returned to power. And for the AMAC, the situation is dire on multiple fronts. First, you have the massive humanitarian crisis, economic collapse, severe drought, no healthcare, no education. They are literally starving.
Right.
But from a spiritual perspective, Christian witness is now viewed as a capital offense.
So there are no foreign workers
Gone.
expelled or evacuated.
And the local believers.
Under extreme threat. Any Afghan found with Christian materials on their phone or in their home risks imprisonment, torture, or death. The Taliban are actively hunting for what they consider apostates.
So this raises the big logistical question then. If the mountains are rugged, the government is hostile, the foreigners are kicked out, and the locals are in hiding, how on earth do they hear the gospel? Is this just a completely closed door? It's a closed door for humans, but not for signals. This is where we really have to talk about technology as a missional tool. Because when human feet cannot go, the airways still can.
Yeah, the sources highlight this specifically, the critical role of media.
It's the lifeline. We're talking about satellite television, specifically a channel called Mohabbat TV, and radio broadcasts from Trans World Radio, or TWR.
And why are this so effective for the AMAC specifically? Is it because they can't be physically blocked at the border?
Partly that. You can block a missionary at a checkpoint, but you can't easily block a satellite signal beaming into a remote mountain village unless you go house to house confiscating dishes, which the Taliban tries to do, but is impossible to enforce everywhere.
That makes sense.
But it's also about the mode of delivery. These broadcasts are delivering the gospel in the Dari language, which the AMAC speak directly into the privacy of their homes.
That image gives me chills. A family in a mud brick house in the Hindu Kush, snow outside, Taliban patrols down the valley. But inside, they are tuning into a satellite signal and hearing about Jesus in their own language.
It turns the living room into a sanctuary. It's intimate and it's safe. And there is another layer to this strategy, too, the diaspora. Because of the crisis, many AMAC have fled to Iran, Pakistan, or Turkey.
Right, the massive refugee crisis.
In those refugee settings, they are much more accessible. They are encountering the gospel in camps or urban centers in Turkey. And the hope, the really strategic hope, is that they will carry that seed back to the mountains or communicate it back to their relatives via WhatsApp or secure messaging. It's a feedback loop.
It reminds me of Romans 10, verse 14. How can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? Technology is basically answering that how when the physical how has been cut off.
It is. It's bridging the impossible gap. It proves that there is no such thing as a closed country to the Holy Spirit or to radio waves.
So we've got the Amazigh in North Africa reclaiming a stolen heritage, the Tunisians in the shadow of Carthage using Ramadan conversations, and the AMAC in the mountains of Afghanistan tuning into the airwaves. That is the landscape for Week 9. But the Missions Connect app isn't just about geography, is it? It's about people.
Right. It's about the individual stories that make these statistics breathe. Otherwise, it's just a geography lesson.
So let's give a little preview of the devotionals for this week. Who are we actually meeting in the app?
Well, on Monday, we read about Qasim. His story is one of moving from deep loneliness to light. It really highlights the severe isolation these believers feel, that sense of, am I the only one?
Which connects perfectly back to that 75% isolation stat we talked about in Algeria.
Exactly. Then Thursday is Ibu Asi. Her story is all about unshakable faith. It's a testament to the resilience we talked about, standing firm when the pressure is really dialed up.
And wrapping up on Sunday,
we have Paulina. Her mission is focused on refugees. It ties perfectly into that AMAC diaspora connection we just discussed, how ministry to refugees can actually be a key to unlocking closed nations.
And this brings us back to the so what. Why does this matter for you, the person listening to this deep dive right now? Why should you care about Qasim or the AMAC?
It matters because of that term we started with, co-laborers. We have to realize that we aren't just consumers of this content. We are actively participating in a spiritual battle.
Unpack that a bit more for us. How does my prayer actually work in this context?
Well, the 30 Days of Prayer Guide quotes 1 Corinthians 3, verse 9. Co-laborers with God. Think about it this way. The AMAC believer has the radio. The Tunisian believer has the conversation. But you have the intercession.
Right.
When you take 5 minutes to pray for a Tunisian believer who is about to have a risky conversation in a cafe, you are their partner in that moment. You are providing the spiritual covering for their tactical move.
You're in the cafe with them, spiritually speaking.
Exactly. When you pray for an AMAC family turning on the radio, you are partnering with the technology and the Holy Spirit to ensure that message lands in good soil. You are active. You aren't just wishing them well. You are pushing back the darkness right alongside them.
It totally changes the way you pray. It's not just God bless the world. It's God empower that specific broadcast to reach that specific mountain village today.
It's precise and it's powerful. As Hebrews 4 verse 12 says, the Word of God is alive and active. Our prayers are asking for that word to penetrate where we physically cannot go.
Yeah.
Into the Kabyle region, into the iftar dinner tables, and into the closed countries.
That is a very powerful place to land. We have covered a lot of ground today, from the ruins of Carthage to the peaks of the Hindu Kush.
It's a great reminder of the sheer scope of God's heart. He's pursuing the free people of North Africa, and he's pursuing the hidden tribes of Afghanistan.
And here's the thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over as you go about your week. We started today by talking about how the ancestors of the Amazigh, people like Augustine, shaped the theology we use today. They built the foundation of the Western Church.
Yes, they did.
So if God is reawakening the church in North Africa right now, if he is stirring the ashes of Carthage, what might that reawakened church contribute to the global church tomorrow? What new Augustine is waiting to be found in the mountains of Algeria?
That is such a profound question. We often think about missions as what we can give them, money, teaching, resources, but we rarely think about what they might eventually give back to us. Their resilience, their theology of suffering. We might need that way more than we know.
Exactly. We need them just as much as they need us, maybe more.
Well said.
If you want to join this movement, if you want to be a co-laborer this week, you need the full guide. We've really just scratched the surface here. You need to download the web-based app to get the daily prayer points and the full stories of Kasim, Ibu Asi, and the others.
It's the essential tool for this week. Don't do this alone.
You can click the link in the description right now or just go to assistingtoobey.com. That's obey.com. Get the app, get the guide, and join us in praying.
It's the most important work you can do this week.
Blessing the nations through prayer, knowledge, and obedience. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
God bless.
So, you want a faith that actually matters, right? You want to make a difference in the world, to see the gospel changing lives, to know that your walk with God and His Word is impacting more than just your own life. Yeah, you want your life to count for the nations. But here's the thing. You're busy, maybe overwhelmed. You're pulled in 20 different directions. And even though you want to engage in missions and the Great Commission, you don't always know what to pray for, what's happening globally, or what your next step should be. The desire to obey is there, but the pathway isn't always clear. Let the Missions Connect app show you the way. Every day, you'll get a missions-focused devotional with a simple, practical action step and an option to share with the Missions Connect community. Every week, you get 3 strategic prayer focuses with fresh daily text and audio prayers, so you're never guessing about what to pray for. And when you're ready, you'll find opportunities to actually get involved in God's global work. Everything in the devotional and prayer section is free forever, but we offer you the opportunity to try the premium version for 15 days. You want to impact the nations with the gospel? With Missions Connect, now you can. Missions Connect, helping you bless the nations through prayer, knowledge, and obedience. A ministry of assistingtoobey.com.